Hello everybody, I'm really going to try and make this a weekly analysis. Let's see how we go with that over the next few weeks. This is an update on my Bitcoin analysis. I'm also going to look at Ethereum and Ripple. I'm just going to look at my daily charts real quick and update these for Bitcoin. Actually, let's just go back to the monthly and put this in context. My Bitcoin Elliott wave count has a cycle degree first wave over here, a second wave over here, and a third wave beginning with primary 1, 2, 3 and 4. The question is primary 4 over? At the weekly chart level, here's primary 4, and we have to answer the question at the daily chart level. This weekly chart is on a semi-log scale. When you draw channels on a semi-log or arithmetic scale, they'll sit differently. When we draw the channel on a semi-log scale, it fits really well. But when we draw on an arithmetic scale, it's now overshot. For the primary degree second wave, it lasted 37 weeks in total, and it was a 92% correction of primary wave 1. Bitcoin has really, really deep corrections. So for primary wave 4, I'd expect it to be more shallow, and if it still hovers around the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio, that'd be expected. I'd expect it to be longer lasting than it is so far. How long has it lasted now? 14 weeks. I'd expect it to be longer lasting than that, but it doesn't have to be. So if it's continuing, we could have intermediate A and then intermediate B could be continuing. I don't think minor wave B, well, technically it could still be a triangle, but the AC trend line doesn't really have much of a slope. Elliott wave triangles normally have a sloping AC trend line. A barrier triangle will have an essentially flat BD trend line, but the AC trend line for both a barrier and contracting triangle should slope. So let's delete that. I don't want to label this over here because it would be truncated. I don't really want to label it over here either, actually, because then C would have, this looks like a 3, not a 5. Technically it could, but I think we have a low in here. So this low here, 29,360, is a little bit above this one here at 28,893. So we haven't quite seen a new low for Bitcoin. So where's minor wave B over? Well, what if actually, okay, what if minor wave B was over here? And now minor wave C is underway. This doesn't look like a third wave though. That would be, if minor wave C is underway, this is the problem with that idea. Nah, that looks all kinds of wrong. This does not look like a third wave. Okay, so the first wave is fine, the second wave is fine, but this, if this is a third wave, here's a third wave. This looks like a normal third wave. It's strong, it has an increase in range, it's usually got push from volume. This doesn't look like a third wave. Okay, let's delete that. What is intermediate wave B? Is it some kind of combination? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so this is a zigzag for W. X is a 3. And this looks okay as a 3, and it's relatively brief. Let's put that there. And then Y could be a flat correction. Yes, that looks good. So I'd expect Y to end about the same level as W, about 41,295. Let's delete this. So 41,295. About there. So that Y completes as a flat. Oh yeah, now this makes sense. So this is a B wave. Yep, that looks like a B wave. So it's a regular flat. A is a 3, B is, oh, it looks like a double zigzag. Yeah, that looks pretty good. No, want this here, motive wave. There we go. Yeah, that looks all right. And there. So I'm expecting a bounce for Bitcoin to test resistance about 41,295, around about there, and then intermediate C to move below the end of A. When intermediate B is over, I'll calculate a target for C. I can't do that yet because I don't know where it begins, so I can't calculate where it might end. Let's calculate what kind of flat this is. So it's a regular flat, so I'd expect C to end about the same level as A, so this might be optimistic. So let's draw a channel around this regular flat because they usually fit within channels. So it's a regular flat because B is a 93% correction of A, so it's met the minimum requirement for a flat. It has to retrace a minimum of 90%. But if it's between 90% and 104% the length of A, or up to 105, then it's a regular flat. If it's 105% or longer, then it's an expanded flat. So you need to know what kind of flat's unfolding to figure out where you think C is most likely to end. So if this is a regular flat, then C would most likely to end around about, or just a little bit beyond A, to avoid a truncation, and possibly to end at resistance at the upper AC trend line. So I'm expecting a bounce for Bitcoin only up to just a little bit above 36,407.56 before the last wave down to complete primary wave 4. I still don't think primary 4 is over because it should have better proportion to primary wave 2. What alternates did I have here? Yeah, this is possible. Still possible. We'll leave that. That doesn't really change. And what about this one? A big triangle? No, because if this is a triangle, let's squish this up so we can see that better. If this is a triangle, then C has to sit down here so that the triangle trend lines are adhered to, and the AC trend line really doesn't have much of a slope. I'll keep that charted, but it doesn't look very likely. I think this is the most likely structure now. A zigzag with intermediate B as a combination. Okay, let's have a look at classic analysis for Bitcoin on the weekly chart. Nope, I haven't got one. I've got the daily chart. We've got, at this low here, huge long lower wicks, no bullish candlestick pattern here. These three candlesticks together make up a morning doji star, and this candlestick here is a really strong bullish engulfing candlestick. It did have support from volume. This one here has a long lower wick. We can't tell if volume is supporting downward movement or upward movement though, because this is a downward day, but it's closed green, so we don't know whether the balance of volume was down or up. But here we've got a really big bullish engulfing candlestick pattern, and it has support from volume, so I'll expect at least to bounce up to resistance, 42,500, or it may not get there. It may only get up to about here in the middle of the resistance area. If we see a new low below this, below 30,000, if price closes below here, then we'll look for next support. We'll have to zoom out to the weekly chart to see that. I'm not going to go through that today. RSI hasn't reached oversold though, although stochastics did reach oversold on this downward swing. But essentially price is consolidating with 42,500 and 32,000. We need a breakout from this consolidation zone to have confidence in the next direction for Bitcoin. We can't be confident the low is in here, but if we break above resistance on an upward day with support from volume, then we can have confidence the upward trend is resuming. That hasn't happened yet. On balance, volume has a range. A breakout of this small range may give us a short-term signal. ADX tells us there's no clear trend. RSI and stochastics both neutral. ATR declining as price moves sideways and slowly lower. So there's a bit of weakness there. Okay, let's take a look at Ethereum real quick. I'll update this analysis too. Weekly chart Ethereum. Semi-log scale, please. That's better. Let's expand that out. So we're focusing on cycle wave 3. So we've got primary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's bring C down. And again, we've got a problem here with the AC trend line. That's not looking right. So primary 2 was a zigzag and it lasted 37 weeks. Same as Bitcoin actually. Primary wave 4 so far has lasted only 10 weeks. So it needs to be longer lasting to have decent proportion. I thought Ethereum might have been unfolding as a triangle, but now I have to pull C down here so that this triangle trend line is respected. I can't label B here, that's way too short. So B's still underway, but the AC trend line, this may be a test of it, but it's really got not enough slope, so let's delete that. And let's have a look at what else Ethereum could be unfolding as. Let's bring in a combination. It'll be intermediate degree. So a zigzag for W. Let's check. Did C move below the end of A? What was A? 1737? Yeah, it did. Okay, no truncation. That's good. Okay, primary 4 could be a combination. This could be X. And I think this has to be here, motive wave, because, but is there an overlap here with an A? If this is an impulse? Yeah, there is. I don't, well, I mean, this would subdivide as a double zigzag, but I don't like double zigzags for X waves. They can. It doesn't violate any Elliott wave rules, but it's not very common. If X ends here, then Y could be a flat and X would be a zigzag, but this is just too small considering the size of W and the length of A, B and C within it. A, B, C for Y? No, that just looks all kinds of wrong. So X has to be over here. I'm going to have to label it a double zigzag because that's the only way it's going to fit. It's not a single zigzag because of that overlap, but it fits really well as a double zigzag. Okay. Within multiples, the maximum number of corrections is 3. That refers to W, Y, and if there is one, Z. Because the maximum number of corrections in a multiple is 3, you can't label multiples within multiples of W, Y, and Z, because as soon as you do that, you're multiplying the number of corrections in the multiple beyond 3 and violating the Elliott wave rule. Of all of the Elliott wave rules I see broken in work online calling itself Elliott wave, that's the most common. People labeling W, X, Y, X, Z, and within them W, X, Y, X, Z, and so on and so forth, nested within them, multiples within multiples, clearly violating that rule, and they don't understand it. But okay. So if you learn nothing else from me but how to spot poor quality Elliott wave work, that's your easiest go-to spot it. Multiples within multiples, and also the overuse of labeling multiples, particularly triples. Triples aren't actually that common. Triple zigzags, I've seen a few, but I think I've only ever once seen one triple combination. So if intermediate Y is a flat correction, then is A over? We've got this huge bearish engulfing candlestick pattern suggesting it is. So how would A subdivide? Does it subdivide as a zigzag? It looks like it might do. Let's check A. Is there an overlap here? Nope. Great. That actually looks pretty good. So A's a 3. B should be a 3. Now we can calculate the minimum for a bounce here for Ethereum, because if intermediate Y is going to be a flat correction, then the minimum required length for B is 90% the length of A. So the length of A is 681.7226. 90% is 613.55. So that tells us to expect 2335.60. Let's put that on here. 2335.60114. That's pretty specific, isn't it? So that's where B would reach 90% the length of A. In a flat correction, B can move beyond the start of A. The common range for a B wave within a flat is up to 1.38 times the length of A, from 1 to 1.38. So I could calculate that as well and put that in, the common range. Let's do that. To where it's 1.28, which is 2662.828. Let's just do 3 decimal places. Let's do 3 here as well, because that's enough. So that's where B would be between 1 to 1.38 times the length of A. So I'm expecting a bounce for Ethereum to end somewhere within that range, but at least to this point or above. And then a final downward wave to complete C of intermediate Y. And when C unfolds, it should move at least slightly below the end of A to avoid a truncation. So I'm expecting a new low for Ethereum below this point. When we know the length of B, then we can know what type of flat may be unfolding for Y. And we can use the Fibonacci ratio between A and C to calculate a target for C. I can't do that yet. Let's have a quick look at Ethereum on the daily chart for classic technical analysis. We've got a huge bullish engulfing candlestick pattern here, but it lacks support from volume. That's actually pretty important for bullish candlesticks to have support from volume. It requires activity of buyers to sustainably push price higher, and we don't have it here. So this may be an interim low. This actually fits the Elliott wave count, which expects upward movement somewhere to resistance around about here. So we've got resistance about 2400, support about 1700. ADX is declining, telling us there's no clear trend. Price is obviously moving sideways with resistance coming down, but support about 1700 holding very strong. On balance volumes also range bound. We see a breakout above resistance or below support for this. It may proceed a direction from price, so keep an eye on that one. ADX, we've been over that. RSI is neutral. There's plenty of room for price to rise or fall. Stochastics is neutral. We had the end of an upward swing here with a bearish candlestick pattern. Stochastics reached overbought. A downward swing here with a bullish candlestick pattern. Stochastics reached oversold. Let's expect an upward swing to resistance and for it to continue until stochastics reaches overbought. So that's essentially what the Elliott wave count is expecting anyway. So that all fits quite nicely. There's weakness in this sideways movement. It's a typical consolidation with light and declining volume and declining ATR and volatility, using ATR as a measure of volatility. Let's look at the last Ripple. Someone's asked me to have a look at this. This is one I purchased, I chucked a little bit of money at quite a while ago, a couple of years ago. It's still doing okay. Highly volatile as all these currencies are. But I like this one because it was such a good buy. It was so cheap. So I figured throwing a little bit of money at it couldn't hurt. I'm not going to do any more though, and this is why. No, well, I might do. I don't know. I think I've got enough Ripple, but I want to keep an eye on it. So the question for Ripple is, we've got a second wave correction because this low here at 6, what is this low here? 65225 has overlapped this high 76802, so this can't be a fourth wave for Ripple. So this is a second wave, so this actually gives Ripple a much more bullish wave count. But then it is well below its prior all-time highs back here in December 2017. And so for cycle 3 must move beyond the end of cycle 1. It hasn't done that. That's better. A semi-log scale for these bigger time frames is necessary. So the question is intermediate 2 over? Intermediate 3 lasted 35 days. Or, yeah, that was a lot more brief. 5 weeks. Intermediate 2's been much longer lasting. I would expect it should be over here, but that doesn't look right. What is happening here? Oh, okay. Okay. This could just be a single zigzag. And does C subdivide as a 5? I think it does. Oh, it does very well. Put this here. Okay. Well, it could be over for Ripple. Ripple could be on its way up in a third wave at intermediate and primary and cycle degree. Well, if that's the case, we should be seeing support from volume back down here for confidence in this view anyway. Let's have a look. I've only got that one wave count for Ripple, which I'll just change and update as it goes. Let's have a look at Ripple. Weekly first. we've got a bullish long lower wick here, resistance about 85, support below about 35. Volume is declining as price falls, and it's very light. What's ATR doing? I haven't got ATR here. Have I got ATR here? Yeah, ATR is declining as well. So range and volume are declining as price falls. There's not a lot of strength in this downward movement. There's no bullish candlestick pattern here on the weekly chart though, at the low. On balance, volume has a weak range. If we see a break below support here, that would be concerning for a bullish case. It hasn't happened yet, but I'll look out for that. RSI is neutral. ADX is telling us there's no clear trend, but the DX line's crossed above the positive, so there's a potential trend change to down. But if there is a new downward trend, ADX isn't telling us. So there's no trend, and stochastics is oversold. Doesn't tend to stay there for too long. So that supports the view there may be a low in place for Ripple. What about the daily chart? What does that look like? There's a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern here, but it lacks support from volume. There's another big one here. This does have support from volume. Okay, great. So that supports the view that there might be a low in place for Ripple. I would really want to see a break above resistance on an upward day with support from volume to have a close above 88 cents, to have some reasonable confidence in that view. If we see a bullish signal at the daily chart level from on-balance volume, that'd give a bit of support to the view we have a low in place for Ripple. ADX is telling us there's no clear trend after previously telling us at the daily chart level there was a downward trend. If it turns up again, that downward trend's already extreme though, because the ADX line is still above both DX lines. RSI is in neutral territory, plenty of room for price to rise or fall. Stochastics reached oversold here and here while price reached support, and here while price reached support, and here at the end of this. It doesn't tend to stay there for too long, and this is deeper. So it looks like Ripple could have finished, and it does have a complete Elliott wave structure. A low could be in for Ripple. This could actually be a really good spot for it. Maybe I will buy just a little bit more. Just to finish off with, when I am investing in these cryptocurrencies, I'm really not putting much money in at all. So you don't need to put a lot of money into these. And when I buy these, the last ones I bought were Nano, OMG, and a couple of others, I'm only putting $100 or $200 at each. And I'm not buying too many. I've only got a small collection. I'm not putting enormous amounts of money into this because you shouldn't need to if you buy at the right point. So if you're going to follow that, or at least not advice, I'm just telling you what I'm doing. If you're going to follow that, don't put too much money into it. Now here is one of my, as a chartered market technician, I will give you one of my investment rules or guidelines. Only invest money that you can afford to lose. If the amount of money you're investing would cause you sleepless nights or damage your relationships or cause some problems in your life if you lost it all, reduce the amount that you're investing until that's no longer the case. Only invest money that you are absolutely comfortable and completely losing, particularly in highly volatile markets like this. For me, maybe a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000, and I'm totally happy to lose that if I'm wrong. Here ends the lecture. Thank you very much. That's all from me.